Good afternoon, everyone. Carm Capriato, Town Hall Academy. What's going on in the future here for 2023? Here's my perspective. Pay attention to sales, cost of goods margins, costs, productivity, cash management, keeping a level head, networking, hiring a coach, and being optimistic. To me, those would be some of the great things to align with for 2023. And the thing that I'm bothered about that I constantly keep getting smattered. I live in Niagara Falls, that water flow that constantly happens, recession, inflation, interest rates, new car sales, used car sales, miles driven, and all the layoffs that we continue to hear about. That's going to affect miles driven.
Most of the US market is broke right. Over half of the people that make 150 to $200,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck. And that statistic was from July of last year. Most people out there just don't have enough money to withstand losing a job, right? You just mentioned layoff there, but these could be business owners that don't have money, but a lot of times these are also customers as well too. And I've started to see that, especially for like kind of my exotic and Euro and high end shops. These customers that they've never ever said no to something are starting to say, you know what, let's hang off on that.
Of course, the marketers are going to tell you that you should not cut back on your marketing when things get slow. But if you think about it, it makes sense. It's a self fulfilling prophecy. It's no different than you as the auto repair shop. When things tighten up, if somebody says, well, I'm not going to do the maintenance on my car, now they're going to have a car that's broken down. They can't get to work and it makes things even worse. It's kind of the same, but it's a more direct relation when we talk about marketing. If business is slow, you don't cut back on marketing. The other thing that is always one of the first to go is to cut back on coaching. But you need your coach, you need your marketing. You don't want to do something that's going to make things even worse.
Because of COVID, because of everything else. Again, it's not the first time I've said it. We've gotten fat, we've gotten lazy, we've gotten happy. We've let our policies and procedures go by the wayside. Like last week, I had a shop owner call me. He's like, Chris, the phone stopped ringing. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, hey, you have this thing in your CRM, send out a slow day text. He sent out the slow day text. He's like, oh, I forgot about that. And he forgot about it because we're fat and happy and things are going great and we've gotten away from basics. So he sent out the slow day text and got 13 appointments off of it.
There's no way it's sustainable. It's going to trail off. And then we just, do what we always do, roll with the punches and come up with new plans, spending more time with each vehicle to find as many legitimate issues as we can, and then providing plans to our clients that can't afford all of it right away, like they may have in the past, a plan to address that stuff throughout the year or the rest of this year into next year.
There are some people that just always seem to thrive. And you want to put yourself into that position where you're the one that thrives when times get tough. You should get excited by it and say, my competition is about to have a hard time and I'm going to capitalize on that.
So many people, they're listening to all of the noise that's out there. They get wrapped up in, oh my God, look what's happening. And they don't look at their own numbers, right? They're basing it off of a perception of what everybody out there is saying. And if they sit down and look at their numbers, you realize, wait a minute, actually, look at what I did last January. Look at what I did this January. It's not matching up to all of the noise that's out there.
A lot of people are looking this as like, hey, we have a recession is coming up. In the long run, it needs to happen, right? It's unsustainable the way it's going. Prices are out of control, but wages at the same time are not going up, or earnings. Now, the thing about it is, if we have a recession, there's not going to be PPP. There's not going to be idle. There's not going to be employee retention tax credit. You're going to have to get through it on your own. And so a lot of people are now looking and saying, hey, go back and look what happened in early 2000. Would you have made it without any, government money? Maybe, maybe not. Everyone, when they look at their numbers, first thing people like to do is, I need to cut my overhead. Everyone's raised on finances. How do you balance the budget? You cut expenses, right? Well, I can't afford that. Because a lot of people have the mindset that you work for someone else, so the income is fixed. You're self-employed. You're an entrepreneur. Not only is it a lot easier to drive the sales versus cut expenses, it's also going to be much more. Cut a couple hundred here, a couple hundred there. All right, great. Now you're $2,500 ahead, right? Versus if you had techs turn out a couple more hours, you're ahead even more. You got to be cautious on this. You got to be forward thinking, but don't make a long-term decision for a short-term problem. Because from a numbers perspective, we price parts based on a percentage. Now, the issue with the parts matrix is generally people are at 400% markup for, $5 below, and then drops off to 40-50% to cap out on it. So as the parts are getting more expensive, you're making less of a percentage. 3 years ago, water pump that was in your 55% gross profit bucket, now the price of that has went up and that's dropped down to 50 or 48%, right? So you're actually jumping up in brackets. So you're still probably making more in dollars, but from a percentage standpoint, it's falling down. If you had a parts matrix back in 1910, the cap was probably what? $15, right? Because no parts costed more than $15. Flash forward to today, $15 is probably your lowest bucket on it. That's an extreme example, but that's 100 years of price shift. But we've seen a pretty massive one in the last 3 years, which is, kind of the same idea of why we need to adjust that to make sure that it's, still working with our kind of core group of products that we're selling.
If you want to have a shop that succeeds when others may not be succeeding, you do that by providing amazing customer service. Like fixing the cars, that's a given, but that's the baseline. But beyond that, the thing that you can do to set yourself apart is to make it so that when people are leaving your shop, they're like jaw drop. They're like, wow, what just happened? And they can't wait to get home and tell their spouse about it. They can't wait to tell their coworker about it.
If something happened and you went into a deep recession and you had to be like, okay, guys, we got to pull together and make this work, you'll find out really quick who your good team members are and who the people that don't care are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you treated your employees that way and whatever, then that's the result you get. But if you as an owner are wowing your employees every day, then they will wow your customers every day.
Everyone is so worried about price, but anytime that anyone does, a survey of their customers, why do you keep on coming back to Matt's shop? No one says price, right? If you say price, then probably need to fix something else. It's like you're the most expensive shop in town. You have raving reviews. Why? Hey, you care about me. I trust them. When they call me up and they say it's what needs to be done, I say do it because we built that rapport.
You think about the Ritz-Carlton, Disney, Chick-fil-A, Nordstrom. If those companies opened an auto repair shop, what would the experience be that they would create? And sit there and like have fun with it. Get your team together and say, what would that look like? But you think about it. Is Disney a cheap option? Is the Ritz-Carlton a cheap option? They're not. When you start doing that stuff, you increase your value. You now allow yourself to charge more. And maybe when that happens, you can actually do those things. So really look at it and determine what would the most amazing customer experience ever look like? Could we do that? And then ask yourself again, well, could we really do that?
Just like in COVID, the time where people need this information the most is not when everything's going well. No one wants to listen, right? Why do I need to listen to this stuff? I'm making more money than ever. When people really get scared is when times get tough. So being able to give them the information, the tools to, hopefully fix it, or even a lot of this stuff is just mental, right? So many people are like, you know what? That was able to kind of talk me down a little bit, stuff that I can control. Because a lot of people, when stuff hits, just like what Chris was talking about, people just shut down, like literally and figuratively. And so hopefully trying to make this year as good as possible for everyone.
Thank you all so much. Hunt Demarest, Chris Cotton, Matt Bonslow, Kim and Brian Walker.
Thanks, Carm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.